Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast. Over 350 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game.
From the audience perspective, how can you naturally convert everyday conversations into genuine client relationships without feeling pushy? Join us as Shawn unpacks her three-step natural selling framework, revealing the exact trust-building questions that transform casual chats into profitable connections. Stick around if you want to ditch the awkward pitch, ask the right questions, and start hearing more clients saying, "Yes, I want that." Let's dive into natural selling with Shawn Bearman. Shawn is a powerhouse coach, serial entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience igniting transformation. As CEO of Radical Ideas Coaching, founder of I Need, and director of training and development at the World Referral Network, Shawn helps people get out of their own way and create radical results. With a background that includes a decade of training at Landmark Worldwide and a seat on the board of Pacific Initiatives, where she oversees millions in provincial environmental funding, Shawn brings a no-nonsense, high-energy approach to coaching. Known for fast results, empowering language, and her signature 90-10 rule, Shawn is on a mission to kick mediocrity to the curb and help others love the lives they lead. Shawn, welcome and good to see you. Do you have a favorite saying you want to share with us?
I have a good one. Let me give you a good one because I was just talking about this earlier today, and Michael Oliver, who brought forward the natural selling stuff that we're going to talk about today, has a really great quote. Let's start with John C. Maxwell's. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Powerhouse. That's an interesting term. That sounds like a force in nature. What life moment first showed you that coaching was the thing for you?
You know, I started young when you had camp counselors. That's like your first kind of coaching role, right? Is when you're a teenager and you're taking care of younger kids or you're babysitting a lot. I actually started my first babysitting business when I was 11. And by the time I was 13, I had 20 other kids working with me. And I earned $1 out of their pay for every hour they worked. There were times where I was making more money than my dad for a particular busy night. So at doing that and working with kids and continuing to work with kids as I got older, then I started counseling at camp and then working with behavioral disordered kids. There's a lot of coaching involved when you work with kids. You got to coach them into liking vegetables. You got to coach them into going to bed. You got to coach them into doing all these different little things, right? So I think that it was a natural progression for me.
Excellent.
What made you realize that you were getting results? Everybody wants to do it. What made you go, you know what? I actually do own this.
Let's be fair. I have moments of causing really great results and I have moments of causing sucking results, right? Just like any person and human being. What I don't do is allow the moments of getting sucking results stop my action flow, right? And have that become a regular state of being for me. And that's through training, practice, and repetition of giving up whatever there is to give up mentally, right? Because it's all a mindset game, completely. That's why some people die from cancer right away and some people don't when they've got the exact same cancer. Somebody has a better attitude about it. Your mindset will literally determine the speed at which you can cause results. For some people, they have more moments of not causing stuff than they do of causing stuff. One of the best pieces of coaching I ever got a couple of years ago, somebody said to me, Shawn, you are amazing at causing things, but you suck at allowing. And it was an eye-opener for me because I had never thought of it that way before. I am great. I can go out and cause stuff. I can call people. I can sell stuff. There's stuff I can do. But to just sit there and allow it to happen around me was really difficult. You want to be doing stuff all the time. I think part of it is that development never ends if you're really smart. Development just keeps going.
One of the things we talked about as you're doing the intro, being sold without selling. When's the first time you realized, hey, I've sold something and it wasn't like, please buy this, as opposed to, you unfolded the story and the person says, I want that.
Yeah. The first 10 years that I was doing it, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. When you're young, you just go for it. You test different things out. If you're young enough, you don't actually care about the outcome. You're just learning as you go. It's like, oh, that didn't work. I should try something different next time. When I got trained by Michael Oliver in his natural selling world, I realized that there was a structure to what I was doing, even though I was doing it unconsciously. I'm kind of one of those hybrids because I live in the world of natural selling and authenticity, but I also live in the professional world where you don't tell everybody about the dirt under the sink. You're not 100% transparent. Those two worlds come together for everybody at some point, and everybody falls either on one side of that fence or the other. They're either heart-centered or they're professional, but rarely both at the same time. When I got trained, I realized that there's a flow to a natural selling conversation and a different flow to the professional conversations. And I wanted to be able to be successful in both of them. I wanted to be able to talk to heart-centered people as effectively as I could talk to business people, more logic focused and more like we're out to cause money for our directors as opposed to make a difference and bring world peace. They're just two different camps. Here's another really important thing. It's safe to say that there are two games being played in the world today. The first game is he who dies with the most toys wins. We've been playing that one for a couple hundred years, ever since North America was settled by other people rather than the indigenous people here. Go out west, get your house, get your car, get your stuff, and he who dies with the most toys wins. It's been a really great game and caused a lot of great things for a lot of people. But there's been this other game that's being played for both the last 50 years, and it's picked up speed for the last 20 years when the word transformation has become more popular. And that game is called He Who Dies Having Made the Biggest Difference Wins, right? You're always playing a game. One of those games is always running the show. For me, I live in the world of he who dies having made the biggest difference wins. I sometimes have to pay rent, or I have to buy something for somebody who needs something worse than I do. I have an entire intern team called Project Abundance, a group of young Africans that I work with to train and develop them on computers and stuff like that. Most of them need power and gas to run generators. I don't have that money. So I'm going to run a big summit in May by donation, and I invite people to come speak in it. They can pay $50 donation and come and speak at it. And I'm going to raise a couple $1,000s so I can buy 3 or 4 of these guys some generators, right? And we can get them some gas so they can learn and do work, right? Because we're out to have the world be a better place. But not everybody lives playing that game. Neither game is right or wrong or better than the other. They're just different games.
Tell me about the 90-10 rule, Shawn.
Here's what most people don't get. We don't actually spend focused time on the things that matter to us most. If you took your priority list of items and you took the top 10% of that priority list of items, and you only worked on that for the first 90 minutes of every day, you would triple your results within 2 weeks. We're easily distractible. I have hundreds of items on my list, but I'm always working from my top 10. I review that list every day, and every night I update it. And every night before I go to bed, I get complete on my day and I review that top 10 list so my brain can cause some cool stuff while I'm sleeping. If I don't get complete at night before I go to sleep, then my brain's trying to figure out how to get me complete instead of trying to figure out how to cause my next miracle.
Beliefs people have through their experiences in life, people have coached them, etc. What limiting beliefs do you find that business owners end up having that actually jams them up?
One of the things that most people think is that they think sales means something that sales doesn't necessarily mean. Most people don't know the difference between marketing and sales. Often they'll call marketing sales and they'll call sales marketing, but they're vastly different, right? The second thing is most people have a disempowering conversation about making sales. So that world of selling their stuff doesn't live in a world of, I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to talk to you and see if you want to buy my stuff. That's not the world that most people live in. There's very few people in the world that love doing call outs. right? Cold calls. We do have one in our network though. So if you need somebody like that, there's a person who loves doing that in our network. Most people find it difficult and they have either a single or multiple disempowering conversations around sales. The Michael Oliver training that I'm talking about today, one of the things that he gets is we're not closing, we're inviting. They're two totally different things, frameworks and points of view. In fact, 80% of the people I talk to are not even qualified clients for me. My job is to find them their perfect coach if that's what they need. If that's not what they need, my job is to help them find whatever they do need inside my network. I get commissions when I give referrals, and I would much rather get paid to not coach someone than to get paid to coach.
Shawn, probably the most famous sales training of all was a movie called Glengarry Glen Ross. Why is it that swarmy, manipulative, high-pressure model has hung around so effectively, even though we deny it?
If you look at the plot of that movie, it's about everything we go through when we're on that spectrum of trying to cause something, right? And it's all about leads. We have a wacky relationship with leads. A lot of people tell me they don't have enough leads. If they're a member of the network, I immediately tell them they're lying and they should cut that out. We have over 2,000 members. What do you mean you don't have enough leads? Have you actually scheduled to pick up the phone and call every single one of those people? No. So we don't have a leads problem. What we most often have is a structure, a focus, and a follow-through problem. And that's where coaches come in. That's why I'm so good at what I do, because I can put in what's missing and then help them keep getting all of those disempowering conversations in their head out of the way, right? So that they can actually win at these games that they want to play, at these results that they want to get. I don't take very many one-on-one clients anymore. Mostly because listening to people whine for 30 years has gotten tiring and I'm ready for a new game. But I still have my group program, so I still do a lot of coaching. And I hear a lot from them that they want the results, but they don't want to take any of the actions consistently enough to actually get them.
Closing techniques.
Technique.
Sorry, say again?
I don't call them closing techniques. I call them inviting techniques.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Stop trying to close people.
My question wasn't so much but it's good to have it redefined. What are the different type of techniques that help invite people then to go?
Well, first of all, you got to do the previous steps before you can even go into that conversation. So let's go back and talk about the 3-step framework. This is something anybody can use. I'm going to say this and you're going to go, oh yeah, I know that, or I've heard of that. But you don't consistently do all 3 steps. And this is where we run into problems. It's always an issue if we're playing this game called, I'm just going to take whatever I can get. So the first step is the way that you actually connect and build that trust from the first words that come out of your mouth. Oftentimes we come out with things that are cliche and boring, or the tone of voice we use sounds like we don't want to be there and don't care about their answer. So the first step is creating really profitable conversations, is that connection. Because people buy from those that they know, like, and trust. Your goal is to connect authentically. And there's several ways of doing that. There's about 20 or 30 different ways, but I'm going to give you my top 3. The first is active listening. In other words, being interested instead of interesting. Showing that genuine interest by asking questions and being present. Instead of, are you interested in my product? What's your biggest challenge right now? Making the questions about that. Listening does that. Open-ended questions do that. Mirroring and matching does that. But there's a lot of techniques that will allow you to connect with that person rather than just see that person as a cog in the wheel. They're a human being and they probably had a few crappy things happen this week. And now you're involved in this conversation, and it's a really great idea to be in their world for the first little bit to ensure they're even open to a conversation with you about anything else. They might not even be open to talking to you. I remember I was talking to this person, and some people get triggered by human beings, right? I reminded him of his loud, obnoxious, and mean aunt. The guy wasn't going to listen to me because he was triggered from the moment I opened my mouth. But the funny part was he had such an extreme reaction that I realized he was triggered, which gave me a conversation to have. I was like, wow, that seems to be an extreme reaction to the question I just asked. Are you okay? Is there anything you need that I could get for you? Because that doesn't seem like the answer you would normally respond with. Hey there, I'm Shawn. Who are you? I don't really want to talk to you right now. It's not really the response you would normally get. What's going on? He was so pissed that he actually told me what was going on. He goes, I'm sorry, you just remind me of someone. Every time you open your mouth, I'm getting triggered, having a moment, which I thought was really great, right? Being that vulnerable allowed us to skip a few steps because his reaction was so extreme. But authenticity always works. And there are various acronyms you can use, like the family acronym, where you're talking about their family, their recreation, their interests. There's 4 or 5 things where you can ask certain questions that have nothing to do with your business, but help you determine what kind of person is this. So instead of trying to get business, you're interviewing them, sorting them, and discovering with them whether they should even be having a future conversation with you. Okay. So that's step 1. Connecting in a way and discovering. We're sorting through the people to discover the people that actually need something I might have or someone in my network might have. Then you come to converse. Well, now we're talking about stuff. And there's different ways of initiating talking about stuff. For example, when you're out to have a conversation with someone, you can create much more meaningful dialogue if you take what I call the guided discovery approach. Instead of telling them why your product is great, you guide them to discover how it fits their needs. And you ask them, right? How would it feel to finally have a solution to that? Or what would it look like if you had a solution to that? Or what would your business be like if you had that solution? And you can also explore their motivation. What would achieving that mean for you personally? What kind of difference would it make for you? So it's just going a little bit deeper with people, and we do this at our Mastery of Networking that we're about to hold in April, because at the Mastery of Networking, you go into these rooms and you say, hi, my name is Shawn Bearman. I'm a business coach. And then you have to answer a question. The question is different for every session and it's dependent on you. One of my favorites is, we gave you $5 million and you could spend it on anything, but you only have 24 hours. What would you spend it on? That tells us a lot about who they are and what they value. The questions are designed to give you a little bit of a taste of their personality. So you can ask those type of questions. I ask them all the time at networking events. I had this wand, like a Harry Potter wand. And when you press the button, it made the sound of the wand. I took it to a networking event and I said, I've got a magic wand and you can touch any of the area of your life and transform it. Which area are you touching? And then I would give them the wand, right? And literally, I learned so much about what people are dealing with that way. It gave me a deeper place to go with them in the conversation that wasn't about my product. So now you've conversed with them and you can convert them. Now you're into the section where you can start that particular conversation. That conversion isn't about pushing for a sale. It's about guiding your prospect to make a decision that feels right for them, because that's what heart-centered people want. So you can take the permission-based approach, right? Ask questions like, would it be helpful if I shared how we could work together on that? Or would it be useful for you if I showed you how I did something with another client dealing with something similar? It keeps the prospect in control and reduces a lot of resistance. Or you can use what I call the final check-in technique, which is right at the end of your conversation. How would you like to proceed? And you let them tell you. It's a gentle prompt, but it allows them to choose without feeling pressured. What would the next step look like for you? Another one I love is I say, out of everything I talked about today, and if time and money were not an option for you, what would you go for? What could you actually manage with integrity? Putting the power back in their hands, right? Then you can move on to objections. By the way, in this framework, we love objections. Objections are our friends in this framework. We're out to cause a whole world where people actually look each and every time. Let me tell you, there was a really great one. If you see the objection as a good thing and you are open to it, you won't get as many of them as you think. If you're planning for objections, you're going to get a lot of them. Okay. But if you are not seeing them as objections and you're seeing them as an opportunity to really delve into, what does this person really care about? Like, what do they really care about? Maybe they want their business to work, but what they really care about is their kid getting into a good school and being able to do what they've always wanted to do.
I'm a Star Trek fan, and they always talk about first contact. Tell me the biggest mistakes in sales that happens on the first contact.
You start with talking about you.
We on roll.
Yeah, like people break this rule all the time, right? I don't start conversations with, here's what I can do for you. I start conversations with, I'm here to be a listening for you and a clearing for you to get everything you need to move forward. It may not come from me personally. Maybe it just comes from somebody I know. But the more you tell me, the more I'm going to be able to help you. And that's my goal. People will often walk up. I can't believe how rude people can be sometimes. I once had this guy walk up to me trying to sell me his MLM weight loss product because he knew I would become the best poster child for him. People used to chase me around events. Objections aren't rejections. They're just a chance to connect deeper. So in objections, there's 4 things to do. Ask, clarify, empathize, and respond with relevance. Ask, clarify, empathize, respond with relevance to any objections. If you do those things, you're not resisting the objection, because what you resist persists in.
Just focuses on being authentic, and the more authentic you are,
100%. Yeah.
I guess the engagement isn't so much I'm here to sell something. That is kind of the baseline activity, but it's the person interaction. Hi, who are you? Going with an open, not as you are a sales prospect. You look like you might be a sales prospect. The goal is first get to know you. Would it be
Wait,
fair to say?
I just say it really simply. I'm here to discover if you are the kind of person that one of the people in my network would like to do business with. That's what I'm out to discover.
I am interested in a reverse take in that we hear a lot about authenticity. And I'm more interested in why people would want to be inauthentic when it's a natural place to be inauthentic, and why.
People haven't been authentic since they were 4 or 5 years old. And they said, I'm a butterfly. And then their parents said, no, you're not. Sit down and eat your dinner. We started getting thought that our authenticity was unworkable for the people around us from a very young age. And then we went to school and we put our hands up and we gave the wrong answer. And we decided we're never going to take that risk again. So every time we took a risk and we got slapped down, we were less likely to take another one. And being authentic is a risk. And people say, Shawn, why do you give so much? You know, when people don't give back, when they don't reciprocate. I keep putting my heart on my silver platter and giving it to people. And people are like, wow, Shawn, you give your heart a lot. And I said, yeah, a small percentage of the time, people are going to take it and stomp all over it and throw it back at me. But you know what? On the whole, people are decent human beings, right? So even if they don't want to work with you, they're not going to go out of their way to hurt your feelings while they're telling you that, because people are pretty decent.
As you move forward with it, and like you said earlier, if you're looking to help people, this is really good. At the end of the day, there's a bill that shows up, and you got to pay for the services rendered. How do you track success without it being first and foremost in your mind, I got to pay a bill?
Success is a formula. For every result that comes out of our pipeline at the bottom, the number of actions have to go into the top. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It doesn't matter what your product is. It doesn't matter what you're doing. For every result, a certain number of actions have to go into the top of the pipeline to cause that result to come out the bottom. In the world of sales, we have to reach out to a number of people and request a conversation. That's the start of the sales process. We have a conversation or a connection. I call them reach outs. Reach outs are when you follow up with someone you met at a networking event, or you're reaching out to people to schedule them to have a one-on-one call with you. That's not necessarily a discovery call that they're a client already, but a call to discover what they're dealing with and what you might have. So you reach out to a number of people, and some of those people are going to say, yes, I'll sit down with you and have those one-on-one calls. Out of those people, some are going to show up and some of them aren't. Another statistic you can keep track of. The ones who say yes to a conversation and show up, That is now going to be a conversation only if one thing happens. You get to a call to action and they say yes, no, or maybe. If you don't get to a call to action, it's still a contact, not a conversation. If you actually get to a call to action and you allow them to say yes, no, or maybe. You're counting how many conversations did I have where I got to a call to action. I called 100 people. Of those 100 people, 50 of them answered the phone. Of the 50 who answered the phone, 20 of them have agreed to a call with me. Of the 20 that agreed to a call with me, 15 showed up. Of the 15 that showed up, I only got to a call to action in 10 of them. So I've only had 10 conversations. Out of the 10, 3 said yes, 3 said no, and 4 said maybe. Now that we have the basic numbers, by the way, if you do 8 weeks of these, keep track of these statistics for 8 weeks, then I can tell you exactly how many times you got to reach out to people to cause exactly how many clients. Even if you're the worst salesperson in the world, it's just formulaic. So that process is called a pipeline, and every business owner has one. Sometimes their reach outs are social media posts. Sometimes they reach out by text, sometimes by email. If they're really smart, they're reaching out 7 different ways on 4 different platforms. Those are all the reach outs. Then out of those, you book one-on-one calls. How can I help you? How can you help me? Out of those one-on-one calls, you'll book discovery calls with some of those people because there'll be a yes to your offer to do a full discovery call. It's just a formula. And people try and complicate it and add all kinds of garbage to it, but that's our humanity. We do that.
A different hat question. Shawn, in my coaching, freedom comes up, freedom of geography. And
Yeah.
here we are on Zoom.
Welcome to my world.
I know, but interestingly enough, you've actually chose freedom of geography. I want to know when you pulled the pin and why, and what noises have crept in, even though you think it was the right choice, if any.
In 2015, I completed my marriage. I had been with my spouse for 25 years, and I was ready to explore the world. I put aside a percentage of my divorce settlement, and I said, if in the year 2018, which is the year that I turned 50, I said, Shawn's gonna go where she wants, buy what she wants, and do what she wants. If there's enough money in that account, in that birthday account, to do it, I'm doing it. And so I went on the road, and I literally traveled from 2016 to COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, I landed in the Dominican Republic and haven't had a reason to leave. It's so great here. I walk out my door, walk down my little pathway, and jump in the pool every morning at 6:30 and swim my laps, right? Like, I just live a lifestyle that most people can't even imagine. But I had some anxiety about it when I first started because I would come home, and as long as I kept coming home, my family was okay. I would come home every 8 weeks and check in with everybody. And I paid rent in Vancouver for the longest time. I spent thousands of dollars in rent that I never should have spent. It was crazy because I had my stuff in. And then after I stopped paying rent, I had a storage unit for a while. Even got rid of that over the last couple of years. The point is, if you go on the road, you can do anything on the road that you can do at home. In my industry, I didn't have to see people in person. I could totally do it virtually. I was lucky that I had that world. But then COVID hit, and now everybody's used to working from home, pretty much. Do you know what I'm saying? Anybody who tells me they can't do what I do is just full of shit. And I met this woman. She goes, I can't do that. I have children. I said, I have families that live in my complex and their kids go to school here. It's not that big of a deal. I said, it's not that you can't, it's that you won't, which is fair. But don't crap on somebody else because they're doing something that you'd really like to do. It's not fair to crap on people about that.
So B2B, B2C, business to business, business to consumer. Is the
Works
sales
exactly the
approach same thing?
It works exactly the same because the sales approach works on the personality of the person you're talking to. It doesn't matter whether you're B2B or B2C, you're talking to a person. And that person has a preferred way of being talked to, right? They're either a heart-centered person or one of those logical engineer type people, right?
Left or right brain, right?
They're one or the other, right? There's no middle ground. It's pregnant, not pregnant.
Is it totally understand that?
Heart-centered entrepreneur who can do really wild things professionally. But my heart is with heart-centered entrepreneurs.
So the art of communication, without going through like, you've talked about sales, we've talked about sales training, understanding the different components. It's not closing a sale, you redefined it. That means there's a backstory of styles or operating methods. But how can you become a powerful communicator without having that sales training? What do you look for in a person? What do you want them to bring out?
Michael Oliver said that a conversation without commitment is just talk.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times we're not clear what we're committed to when we go into a conversation. We haven't set an intention for the conversation. And half the time, we also haven't communicated that intention to the person we're talking to.
Yeah.
So effective communication is about setting a really powerful intention and then inspiring the person you're talking to in that intention. That's the magic.
Mediocrity. I
Yeah.
want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the business space?
Only playing games that are slight improvements over the status quo. Answering every time someone says, "How are you?" with fine. Being satisfied with mediocre results, small incremental results, which corporate America is completely fine with, by the way. You do a 10% increase in corporate America, you get bonused on that.
Yeah.
No imminent bursts this afternoon.
You think about it.
He's got a grandchild in pending mode. That's what that was all about. I didn't explain the whole 9 yards. So your information, Wayne, is coming out of context to Shawn.
Sean's used to that with me.
No problem. But it
Right.
also looks like this, Bernie, right? I would rather live a life where my life was 80% spectacular and 20% sheer hell than live a life where 50% of the time I was happy.
Yeah.
So that's what that looks like.
So it also means then I guess you're going to take chances to expand what you're doing, right? But
Okay. Risk.
you're in a rut.
After knowing you for quite a while, do you ever find that the truth you have to tell leaves the person confused? It had to be said. They didn't know how to take it.
Wayne, I coach my people this way. If you develop yourself in getting people complete and in cleaning things up with people, then you never have to worry about what comes out of your mouth. Right? Because if it offends them, you just clean it up. Say, "I'm so sorry. I had no intentions of offending you. Please forgive me. I apologize." You have that opportunity each and every time. When I learned how to clean stuff up and get complete, I didn't have to worry about how my words were going to be received anymore. Not everyone is going to like the stuff I say. I'm too authentic for that. You're going to hate what I say no matter what I say. Because I remind them
So
of their being loud, obnoxious.
So what does the future hold in the next 5 for you?
My father's not in good health right now, so I'll probably be coming back to Canada to be with my family and handle that situation. My partner cannot wait to visit Canada for the first time or even get on a plane for the first time. It's quite a big deal. Where I see myself moving to is continuing with my group work and winding down my one-on-one work with people. You have to have something pretty spectacular and pay me a lot of money to talk one-on-one these days. I'm not interested. And building the World Referral Network, I'm out to build it. I'm playing a game with Joe to build it to 10,000 members and really provide something to the entrepreneur world before we leave this world.
Shawn, how can folks get a hold of you? How can they reach you?
Well, the easiest way is to join WRN because I'm pretty much all over there, right? They can send me a LinkedIn request, they can send me a Facebook request, or they can just email me at Shawn@ineedcoaching.com. Either way, they can send me a message out there on social media. You can track me down, easy peasy.
Do you have a book or a podcast you go want to tell us about?
I do a live stream every Friday where people are live with me on the Zoom screen and people on the Facebook group are listening. It's a different topic every week, but always fascinating topics. They can reach that by searching Facebook for the group, I Need Coaching. The other thing I do is I'm going to be launching a book. Actually, I have a number of books, 3 different books for the mastery of networking. And we are giving those books away for free when people register for the course. There's one on the 7 miracles. If you can do these 7 things, you will win at the networking game. And there's one that's the AI networking blueprint, how to use AI to have your networking be even more spectacular. It's 38 pages. I spent a lot of time on it. Okay. So, these books you can get for free when you join the event, which is masteryofnetworking.com/1000. Come be with us for the event. We're going to have a great time.
I want to say thank you to Shawn Bearman, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you're looking to network, get some guidance, reach out to Shawn on our Facebook group or join the World Referral Network and get connected.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motivateyou.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motivateyou.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.